This is Charlie Parsons for Boxing Social in association with Empire Fight Store. Delighted to be joined here. Mr. Andy Clarke, how are you, mate?
Yeah, very well, thanks. Looking forward to this. Been looking forward to it since it was made, really.
Very exciting. Nice for us hardcores as well to have Beterbiev on UK shores.
Yeah, big thrill to have a fighter like him over here because he is. You just look at the record. He was a world amateur champion, two-time European champion, two-time Olympian. Had those battles with Usyk, 3 world titles, 18 fights, 18 knockouts, and he's actually boxed fewer professional rounds than Anthony Yarde. That's how efficiently he's done the job. So it's great to have him here. It's great to see him at the workout. Had a quick chat with him a couple of days ago, and he doesn't say an awful lot.
Doesn't say much.
But I think he understands more than maybe he lets on, and he's a man of relatively few words. And I've enjoyed the build-up because they're both very respectful of each other, and they're just looking to get down to business on Saturday. But it is great to have someone like him here because he's absolutely top draw. He doesn't get mentioned in the pound-for-pound rankings or the elite rankings, maybe as much as he could, possibly because he's always boxed at the one weight, although I don't see why that should rule you out. But he's been devastating so far.
I feel like this week, obviously it's in the UK, it's all the UK boxing media. There has obviously been a big push on Yarde, and rightfully so, but almost shadowing away from just how good Beterbiev is, because a lot of us hope Anthony can do it, but will be a big ask come Saturday.
Yeah, if you look at the bare facts here and give a rational kind of analysis of what's most likely to happen, then it points heavily in Beterbiev's favour. And I think elsewhere in the world they would look at this and they probably wouldn't give Anthony Yarde any chance at all, really. But obviously we're a bit more invested because we know him. But I do give him a chance. You have to. Ruling somebody out completely in any fight, history shows you, is a foolish move. And it's not just a case of hedging your bets. He does have genuine power. He is an intelligent guy. He learns quickly. And Beterbiev is 38, and although there's been no sign of any kind of deterioration yet, it will happen at some point. One fight, he will turn up and he'll just be missing a step. He won't, be staggering about like an old man, but it's fractions at this level. Just fractions. All of a sudden, he'll see the opening, but he won't quite be able to take it. Or he'll see the punch coming and he just won't quite be able to move out of the way. And that is fractions of a second. And at some point, that will happen. If it happens on Saturday, that will definitely help him, definitely help Yarde. But obviously they won't be relying on that. But it's something worth bearing in mind because, like I say, at some point in the not too distant future, on a fight night, that will happen to him. It can't not.
A lot of people have mentioned Beterbiev being dropped by Callum Johnson this week, and I suppose that fits in with being dropped by another British fighter. He has proven that he can be dropped, although every time recovered fantastically. Does it have to almost be tenacity, high volume? If you get him hurt, Anthony can't afford to sort of let it slip away like he did with the Kovalev fight?
Yeah, possibly. I think with Kovalev, I don't think he could have done any more. He was one punch away. He put everything into that round when he got him going, and unfortunately, because he did that, he really did empty the tank. But he was right to, because he was almost there. You've got to go for it in that situation. He absolutely did go for it, and Kovalev was almost gone. The trainer said to him in the corner, didn't he, listen, and anything more like that at the start of the next round and I'm stopping the fight. So he was that close. In the end, he got stopped by a jab, and detractors like to make a big thing of that, but it was exhaustion, really. He just had absolutely nothing left. But I commentated on the fight when Callum Johnson put Beterbiev down, and he was properly hurt. And Callum said since that he regrets not jumping on him. But again, I understand why he didn't. And it's not like he didn't try and force the pace and follow it up. He did. He just didn't completely unload. And again, it's one of those situations where it's really easy for him to be hard on himself in hindsight. But at the time, I didn't really feel like he necessarily let him off the hook. He needs to connect with something early, Yarde, and get his respect. We talk about that a lot, getting his, the big puncher, big fighter, the champion, and getting their respect. But it is very important that he does that ideally. And if he can, it'll give him some confidence. It'll make Beterbiev think, and then you never know.
Steering away a little bit from this fight, world of boxing as a whole. I'm curious. Last night we saw Chris Eubank Jr.'s team are nothing confirmed yet, but there are rumours that they may be filing an appeal with the British Boxing Board of Control over the use of the elbow in the clinch with Liam Smith. I spoke to Gareth Davies last night. He said he maybe thought it would be a way that the team, Eubank's team, are trying to get him mentally in the headspace to take the rematch. Do you think this is what it is? We can't imagine seeing the board overturning anything. It would be very out of the ordinary in these situations. We never really see it overturned.
No, I think that's exactly what it is. There's no way the board are going to entertain this, because the only answer that they can give is that it's up to the referee whether he sees elbows, heads, and whether he feels like there's any action that needs to be taken. They trust their referees. Everything is at the discretion of the referee. I don't see any possibility that any kind of appeal is going to get anywhere at all. But it's part of the mental rehabilitation of Eubank, and it actually started on the night, because in the ring he held his hands up, said, you know, it's a fair cop. He was the better man on the night. Congratulations. They shook hands, and that was great. But not that long afterwards, backstage, that had changed, and it was a combination of a lifetime. I slipped, and then the referee jumped in too early.
It's ready to carry on.
That's it. I found that really interesting. That process had already begun, because if you're going to go into a rematch with somebody, you can't have it in your head that the reason you lost the first time is because they were better than you. That just doesn't work. Look at Deontay Wilder against Fury after that second fight. In the ring, he did the same thing. He said, you know, held up his hands, the better man won on the night, no excuses. But pretty soon that turned into he tampered with his gloves, the costume was too heavy. They need to explain it to themselves in a way that they can sell the defeat to themselves and move forward believing that they can win the rematch. And being honest about it, that just doesn't work sometimes. So I think that's what it is. I mean, I can't. That appeal's not going to get anywhere.
Fury-Usyk, we're hearing, I suppose I like to say more and more, but almost less and less, in the fact that no one's giving anything away. Creeping in with talks of Wembley Stadium, with how much they're going to need to be paid for a fight like this, it does feel fairly unrealistic, the principle of them coming to the UK. But we never know with boxing. I would say Saudi Arabia still seems like a certainty. Maybe looking at like an April date now. Do you believe that it's realistic and we will see this fight? We see Fury talking about Ngannou and stuff. Is it a bit of a worry?
I mean, the longer it goes without it being done, you do start to worry a bit, because I've always been really confident about this, just because Queensberry and Top Rank working together has been a good partnership with Fury. K2, again, are a great outfit. They all seem to get on pretty well, and it makes sense for everyone. So I just don't see why it wouldn't happen. I think it will be in Saudi Arabia if the Saudis want it, which you would have thought they will, because this is the biggest fight and they want the biggest events, and they've got the money, and it's a short career, and you've got to go where you can make the most money. Whatever people think about it, that is their right. That is their right. That is the reality, and it'd be great to see it in the UK, but I don't expect that to happen. But I really hope that we get some kind of announcement soonish for, it'd have to be April now, wouldn't it? They were talking about even late February, March previously, but that we can't see that now.
Finally from me, AJ Jermaine Franklin is being looked like the fight for April 1. The zone pay-per-view, we're expecting AJ's always been on pay-per-view. Just firstly, do you believe it's right? I suppose the purses that AJ's going to demand after doing his whole career in pay-per-view fights since 2015, 2016, is always going to land on that.
Yeah, he's a pay-per-view fighter. He has been since that fight against Dillian Whyte. You're looking at it'd be an act of supreme generosity to not put him on pay-per-view. And I know that DAZN said when they started that it was the death of pay-per-view and all that kind of thing, but things change. Things change, and that's just how the world works. I would have liked to have seen him gone straight into a fight with Dillian Whyte. I think that's a great fight for him, but you understand the reasons for it. He's had a fairly torrid last 2 or 3 years, and he's done this deal with DAZN, and from a business point of view, it makes sense. It makes sense to kind of get him out against Jermaine Franklin, and boxing on April the 1st. Maybe you can box 3 times this year. I guess probably not, but you might be able to. It's just he's still a huge draw. And the O2, Now that's going to be a hot ticket. There's going to be a lot of people wanting a ticket for that, because previously when he's boxed here, you're looking at upwards with 65,000 tickets available, and this time it'll be 20.
Just finally, is Jermaine Franklin an okay opponent? I mean, put in a great shift against Dillian Whyte. Dillian Whyte not his best, but people did have it either way. A lot of people did thought Jermaine Franklin won it. What I was saying this week, I think it was Adam Morley I was speaking about. If Jermaine Franklin had the win on his record against Dillian Whyte, do you think that would almost shut the naysayers up a little bit if it said win on BoxRec as opposed to the loss?
Yeah, I think so, because I wouldn't see anything wrong with AJ fighting Dillian Whyte in his next fight, and if Franklin's got a win over him, then I can't complain about him, can I? And in a way, I still can't really complain about him, because if you use that rationale, because there are a good number of people who felt that he won. So, given that the plan was always get him a fight, then put him into a really big fight and take it from there, then you look at the names. Otto Wallin was in the fray for a while, Dempsey McKean, and then Jermaine Franklin. Given, generally it's a case of, what have you done lately? And
Jermaine Franklin, also an orthodox. We get why they don't want to go for a southpaw when the other big heavyweights out there for the fighters to land are orthodox, other than Usyk, who he's got the 2 losses.
Yeah, exactly. So, given that we always knew what the plan was, what Eddie's kind of plan was, as much as you ever do know, I'm not surprised that it's ended up being Franklin. And you've got to be kind of pleased for him too, because he was sore after that defeat. He felt that he did enough to win, and then you just think to yourself, well, what's going to happen now? Because people might not really fancy me because I'm a bit better than maybe they thought. But he's got a massive fight and a really